Okay, Quentin and Matt are head down in some coding right now. All right,
So it's just
so
us.
it's just us. All right, well,
Noel, maybe
anyone have any blockers?
I think Noel, maybe you want to speak to the form that was a problem, the military guardianship thing.
Yeah,
Affidavit.
so I've worked with that form before. We use the military affidavit a lot when we do when we close estates and guardianships and conservatorships and things like that. And I've always kind of had a problem with it when you go online to download it. So I downloaded it and then tried to unlock it through the the document.
Document, yeah.
And then it kept giving me like the preview. That's what they would unlock. They wouldn't actually unlock the form. So I spent like 20 minutes trying to unlock it. Didn't work. Reached out to Matt. And then Caroline, you ended up having, I don't know how that worked, but it worked. And so I was able to add all the fields and do the labels. So it took a little while just because I was going in circles for a little bit, but now it should be over to the QC card now.
Yeah, I'll do that QC.
Okay. So it was okay.
And then, so once I do the QC, I'll do that quickly when we get off this call. Then perhaps you can try run it through the wizard. You said you had done that.
I did that last week.
Yeah.
I don't know I don't know if it like was a good job, but I did do it. So yeah, I can do that when you're done.
They've updated the wizard a lot.
Oh, great. Okay.
So I think I ran something through the wizard yesterday and it worked a lot better. And it's just more prompts and it's more helpful.
Okay, great.
People who haven't done it before don't know what they're doing.
Okay. Cool.
Otherwise, are there any other blockers that you two have come up against?
Not on my end. Kate Barry sent me. She's working on the guardianship forms right now, and she kind of, I don't know if anyone else saw, like she did like a big Word doc of all of these questions, and it's like I think 6 pages long, but it's just kind of action items for the guardianships forms, and then like questions that kind of arise when she was doing them. So I was going to go through that and see if I could help at all with that. So I think that's going to take a little bit of time because there's so much info. And I was actually thinking about reaching out to one of the lawyers I used to work with who's like a master in like guardianship stuff. So that was kind of what I was going to work on today. And then I'll do I'll run that through the wizard too.
Oh, fantastic. Okay. So basically that touches on something that Caroline and I were speaking about yesterday. David, we realized obviously after the 209A issue that we didn't have that high level overview that was necessary for people who were completing that. So Caroline and I just spitballed a little bit on how we could possibly deal with that. And it seems like that guardianship, I haven't looked at the document yet, but that guardianship document could be a start. I just think for every batch that we get from here on out, we should try and at least before rushing into doing it, just take a beat and try and get a high level summary of what you're going to be dealing with and maybe the terms that are going to come up a lot throughout the different forms. And then, I have done this flowchart now for the 209 affidavit. I'm kind of in the flowcharting thing. I mean, it might be beneficial to do a flowchart, especially where you have a packet of forms that has got so many forms like the 209A, where it's not just 3 different forms when you're dealing with a lot of forms that interact with each other in a different way. Because if Noel, if you hadn't been an expert in guardianship, then you wouldn't know necessarily like the words that are going to come up a lot or how the forms interact together.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot of good resources also like on the probate court. I'm just speaking from a probate point of view. I don't know much about the 209A or housing or anything like that, but just from a probate standpoint, the courts are pretty good about adding instructions and what does this term mean? And so, I'm happy to like put together a cheat sheet for something. Again, I hate calling myself an expert because I don't feel that way at all. But like I'm happy to help with whatever I can.
Yeah.
I think having experience in the guardianship is, something that I don't have. So you're an expert in my eyes in that respect. But yeah, I think that, I don't know, David, do you have any thoughts on compiling kind of like an overview as we get new batches of forms?
I think as there are families, and actually I just have a new batch that I got from the court for juvenile court matters. And they actually seem to have grouped them in to groups, like they have child requiring assistance, care and protection, delinquency, harassment, and mental health. And some of these are actually more generally applicable things as well. But usually the juvenile forms are just like an extra couple forms for some of this stuff, although some of them are juvenile specific.
Standalone?
Yeah, so I'll send that. I'll shoot that to you and Matt in the Slack so that you can then figure out how to disseminate out those forms.
Yeah. I just think because it ended up being a lot more extra work because of the fact that we didn't know which forms we were doing and the labeling of the forms and all that kind of stuff.
And to some extent, though, we can, to some extent, we don't have to make everything a finalized packet. So remember, our users are not just pro se litigants who want to come and do stuff. Advocates might be coming, so they know I need this form and this form, this form. So they'll be able to navigate that. So the thing to do there is just to flag that and say, here's this form. It's, and we can even just in a textual description of when we're linking to it, say, normally it's part of a packet. If you don't know what that is, you should talk to someone. But if you do, then go ahead and use it. Because one of the use cases I'm excited about is advocates, or maybe even eventually the court personnel, when someone calls, then be able to do something and then just send it off to the court. So yeah, let's not get, we don't want the perfect to be the enemy of the good. And we should know that there are people who will be able to access these forms because they will have some of that context. So we don't have to make something that's good for everyone out of the gate.
Yeah. No, I just think that in terms of the first part of the work.
Yeah, I think that's entirely.
That's where it comes. Yeah.
I think that's entirely a good approach. I'm just trying to temper, like, let's not figure everything out before we.
I know.
But yes, no. I love the approach. I think it's appropriate. But I also think it means we can prioritize things. If we come in and you start to do that a little bit, and you're like, oh, this is a mess. Then you look over here and it's like, oh, well, this isn't as much of a mess. And then we can do is not as much of a mess thing, because at this point, all the stuff we're looking at are emergency matters, so they're all sort of equal sort of urgency. So if we can get something out more quickly with an easier one, then that's just great. That being said, back to Maeve.
There's nothing else that I can. That was just the main thing that I was thinking of over today. Caroline, you're doing some interview. I know you said that you were quite busy with work.
Yeah. I talked to Kate this morning because I have all this stuff, but it's hard to just hand over to somebody else. But so I talked to her for a while to see if she understood what I was talking about and whether she could read my stuff. And she seemed to think she understood it. A lot of it is just the text to go into Matt's interview, but also I talked to her a little bit about did it make sense to her, the kind of path that we took. And I felt badly because I did want to get all this stuff done for you to do the flow chart, at least, because I think the flow chart is a really great way to look at how things are supposed to work together. But she's going to try and work with Matt today, I think, to get the questions in, and then she confirmed about the path, how we should go. So I think she's going to work on that. And I gave her an outline. So I did a very, very 9-point outline for the whole 209A, how it should go. So I can send that to you just so you get a sense, because we were talking yesterday about having one big outline about where you are on the forms, but really it's almost like you get to sort of the first 4 questions in the 209A, and then you go answer other questions if you have children, and then you go answer something else, and then you come back, and then you come back. So you don't actually go through the 209A in the order that it's presented on the form. And I think oftentimes when advocates work with people, they don't go in the order, because it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
So she's going to be working on that and putting the text of the questions in. Also, sometimes there's one question and it makes more sense to have 3 or 4 questions, including like an explanatory screen. So
I just wanted to show you something while we're on this, just so that you guys can see what we're working on in terms of flowcharts. So this is the flowchart that I was working on. It's the only thing that, Caroline, that I added in was, the police thing where the police called, no, why not?
Right.
I also added something in here for the medical thing. Did you receive medical care? No, why not? Do you want to include why you didn't in the description? So that's just one extra thing that I added.
Mm-hmm.
But otherwise, I've literally just been playing with flowcharts. Okay, so this is what it would kind of look like for it doesn't look like it makes a lot of sense now. But when you actually get into if you look at it, you get in. It does actually link up, and it runs through. Yeah. So I think that it would be beneficial to have something like that when you're having the kind of complex forms that you need a high level summary of. I've also done one for the workflow, which I wanted to just send because I saw that I'm getting some questions from some volunteers about how the workflow runs and where the card is supposed to be when they're working on something, and just things like that.
Yeah.
That's kind of like second nature for us now. We've worked on it for a week, but
we're all experts.
We're all experts now. But yeah, so I wanted to get something out. And then, as I said, if I could just, when we see somebody new joining the Slack, I'll just straight away message them like, hey, thank you so much for coming on.
Yeah.
This is a pack of, and as I said, I'll get that thing out maybe by tonight or tomorrow morning. This is a pack of resources. Please feel free to contact me or Matt, or I think we're trying to keep away from, you guys.
I think we do you or Matt. That's the way to go.
And it will help out because I think, Noelle, you weren't on the call yesterday, but I said that when I first talked to you, like, it seemed like you didn't know, like you wanted to be so helpful, but you are so helpful, but you didn't know where to go or
how to start.
Yeah, I mean, I know when I first reached out to Suffolk about everything they had sent me, I think it was like the labeling, like the GitHub or something. Like it was like about labeling, but I was like that was like my first thing that I started with.
Yeah.
And then I watched the onboarding YouTube. I think it was like an hour, and so it was just hard to get like a context of exactly like what was I being helpful with, because I'm not a coder, I'm not like a computer person. So I think it just depends on the role that the volunteers are going to play. Like, are you a student? Are you helping with this? So I do think it's important to kind of give them a role, because it can be overwhelming if you don't really know what your place is.
Yeah. That would fit nicely, I imagine, into a flow chart. Sort of like, what are you comfortable doing?
Yeah, I agree.
Yes, no, and then build out. Yeah. Okay. And then, so I think that's because I think it's just important that we don't lose the volunteers that are joining the Slack or that are coming to us.
Yeah, because we're about to get a bunch more forms, like juvenile court just gave. We got probate. There are a couple more court departments that are going to start hopefully giving us.
And then perhaps the people that have been around in the first week that have been labeling can then do the QC, because they know what to look for. They know where the errors are going to come up and that what we've kind of encountered. So let me work on that. And then, I just wanted to get your permission to be able to contact these new volunteers.
Yeah. Please. You're project manager now. You've got free reign.
Okay, that's
in
all
that
from
Slack.
me. I'm very cognizant of everyone's time. So if you guys have anything else you want to mention, now's the point of the meeting. But otherwise,
I just wanted to say, Maeve, if you want me to look over that workflow thing for the new people, like, feel free to send it to me, just because I am still new, so like I know what I don't know. So let me know.
Yeah, you're in the middle of our experience path.
Yeah.
You can have people. You can have a Trello board with people and move the people from one list to the next.
Yeah.
Each person gets a card, and as you move, it's like a cult. As you move up the rungs, you're like.
Or we can give people points and you level up, right? Yeah.
So I wanted to share it with more people, but it's just so funny. I just have to tell you, of course, my husband is English. And so sometimes we don't speak the same language. And so, of course, we've been talking about access to justice forever. And, that's one of those terms. It's like food insecurity. That just makes me crazy because it's just jargon, right? But, so I thought he's usually really good with graphics and stuff. I haven't been patient enough, but I'm just going to tell you guys. So apparently every time he hears access to justice, he thinks AXIS, right? And axis. And then your little judges along the axis, good judges, bad judges, understanding judges who listen. And I thought, well, you're doing flowcharts, Maeve. Why don't you do an access to judges?
Well, Caroline's husband. Oh my God. How long has he been thinking that?
No, I mean, he knows, but it's just, when you hear something and it makes you think of something, he knows. But he told me about it the other day and I just cracked up. And of course, it's one of those things that you just keep expanding on, He's going, no, I'm not thinking of that kind of axis. I'm saying, but yeah, you can have an x-axis and a y-axis. Put these little judges all over the place.
I love that.
Anyway, I thought it was kind of a cheerful thought.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I like that. Okay, I think that's it for today. Thank you for ending on a really funny note, Caroline.
Yes.
I'm gonna send the flowchart to everybody. I think that's, but I'll tag the people who are necessary to see it. I don't know, Quentin and David, I don't know if you guys actually need to see it, but it's more from Matt and the people who are going to be doing.
Yeah, just keep us in the loop. And hopefully we'll start to do some soft sharing of the beta today and tomorrow, and then if we're very lucky, we'll be able to put it out there live on Friday.
Oh, that's great news.
So at least one form, maybe one form.
I like that. Okay,
well,
as always,
you start like that, and then they start.
Exactly.
You just have to get your system.
Yep. And I think as we've seen it, once we've gone through the pain points and stuff, it suddenly gets a lot quicker and a lot easier. And as soon as we kind of streamline that onboarding process, it's going to help a lot.
The other thing is, we haven't. There's been no user testing, right?
No.
So
that's actually been worked into some of but there's not as much as one would like.
Yeah. So what I'm thinking is it might be a good thing in many ways that if you have, I don't know if do you have a feedback? Is there a feedback on the TRO? So that it might be something just to think about if people are struggling. I mean, you have this balance because people are going to be asking you legal questions. Yeah.
I think to the extent we want to do user testing, we're trying to get some people, so the users we have access to at this level are advocates,
right?
To go through it and do that user testing.
Yeah.
As far as non
people on the
sort
street,
of lay people user testing, that's something we'll have to rely upon advocates and stuff to reach out to people and to talk to them about those experiences.
Okay.
But yeah, I'm trying to think about what we want to do about capturing feedback and stuff. I want to be careful that we don't become help. We can't run an IT support desk, and we also can't answer everyone's legal questions.
Right.
So to the extent there are questions, we're trying to direct people to the court's helpline. And then hopefully just that the documentation is enough.
Yeah, it's tricky because it could, people could, if you have a lot of people using it, they may use it differently than you expect. Yeah. And advocates might not catch it. And sometimes it's just they don't understand the question, they don't understand how they're supposed to do it.
What I think we will do is we'll get feedback from the court about the final product.
Yeah.
So we'll see where people are ending up, and if they're saying people are always saying this, why are they saying that? Then we should reverse engineer.
Yeah.
We're just we have to be cognizant of the fact we're just trying to do something better than the status quo.
Right. I mean, the other thing is that if you're putting if you're doing Google, will you be doing Google Analytics?
We're going to do some type of analytics. I would prefer not to do Google.
Yeah.
But we should be doing something. Yeah.
Yeah. So you can see where if people are dropping off.
Exactly. Yeah. We want to have that functionality. Yeah. All right.
Good night.
Yes. Good night, Maeve.
Night.